Hello everybody, I haven't posted in a while and I thought I would share what I'm doing for right now. And if you're watching, I've been having fun with this. This is actually my old Nintendo motherboard, and it's upside down for one thing because this expansion slot if you see that, Nintendo made an expansion slot that was never used, but on the internet there's a really neat little device that doesn't seem to be updated right now, but there are some cool features that Nintendo could have added to this. We'll get back to him later. But I took off the RF modulator, see all these cables? Because originally I actually did my own video mod. I followed instructions on it. Now, see these, there's 5 holes right here. My first desoldering project too, I know the... Okay, stupid camera. Okay, well, you see the 2 holes. They're see-through right now, and because there's no solder right there. If I did, that would actually be a reset. I could make a reset button just like the front of the Nintendo had. That was connected because there used to be a RF modulator, and you see this big solder point here, and there's see those 2 holes right here. By the way, this thing is actually ground. This whole silver piece going around the motherboard, it acts as ground, except for the 36 pins here, and then there's another 36 pins on the opposite side. But so you can ground. Obviously, you see I got some stuff soldered here to be ground, and so the wire here, right here, I have to ground and what's known as 5 volts. So that gives it power to the machine. This is originally my adapter to make it power. I haven't gotten back to it, but that's what it was. The second one right here goes to my second port. This is actually supposed to be the audio. And back then in electronics, if you hook up your DVD player now, you got yellow, white, and red. Well, the Nintendo, for some reason, only came in mono. But you can do a stereo mod if you want, which I don't know, I might do that. That could be better, but at the time being, I don't want to go so far. I want to make sure that I got it running. So this is the ground, so it goes back into this spot, so it's grounded. You always need the ground, and then also add a wire here. This little guy, I accidentally burnt him, so the video mod's done and over with, but this is what it is. It's a 2N4401 transistor. This is what makes the video mod. You can get it at Radio Shack, as the box says. And I actually have 2 more of those. Just one there, and then there's one over there somewhere laying on the table. But this is what makes that video. I'm not sure what's scientific about it, but all I know is use that and wire it up with these resistors. I don't remember the names of them, and I'd have to relook at my packaging. But I did have the video working. I turned on the machine, and it was blinking like if I didn't have a game in, so I knew my video mod was working perfectly fine, but I did burn this because it stopped working. And you basically just have to solder these wires. Now there's 2 resistors. Now this resistor bridges between both the ground, which I have this red wire right here, if you can see it soldered to the ground, and then this would actually be soldered where this guy is, hooked up into the video mod. Looks like I also have that guy soldered into the 5 volts, so you actually have to have 5 volts running through it too. Okay, now that we got that done and over with, this is the original 72-pin connector. It's made by Nintendo of America. And see how the bottom has 2 sets of 36 pins out, shiny, and where this goes is actually right here on the motherboard, like I was telling you. If this was this way, that's how the pin connector would go. It actually stick up like this. Now, with this stupid thing, there is pins inside. What you had to do was, and I'm pretty sure some of you know, you put the game at an angle and push down and turn on into the load. Well, after a while that would stop working. I've even pulled up the pins. You can use a sewing needle, which isn't too hard. I'll fix it for a while, but it's kind of annoying. It goes back to it. But this is my beast. I went ahead and soldered 72 wires to it. And I'm actually pretty happy with the way this came out, because the first time I did it, I got a little frustrated and stopped doing it. But I figured with all those plastic black lines there, I could separate the solder easily with it, so it would just drop right in. And that was a big success. So the first 32, I put a piece of perf board right into the cartridge slot, as you can see. And then 36 wires sticking out, and I also soldered on there because I found out you need to solder every last copper, otherwise something with oxidation. So I also put a piece of perf board, I hot glued it to the top here. That way I would have a piece of board. I lined it up too, so that I could just stick the wires in there individually and then solder it to it. It actually gave it a nice grab, and I can actually bend this wire and not worry about it. It works pretty nice that way. I don't know if the game will load up or not, but that was just the start. Then, just today, I had to mark it, but I marked it by 5s, and then obviously 36 with the double right there, but this didn't take too long. You're probably like, that could have taken a while. But if you actually, maybe I did that wrong, but I found out if you put flux here, a light layer, you don't need to you don't need to put a whole lot of flux on there, but if you put some flux there, get your soldering iron out and put solder on it and just rub it over it, the solder will go right where the copper marks are. Because I mean, this is what perf board really looks like, but this had copper marks on it, so it'd be easier to solder. I did 2 of them, and this is the one that has the actual wires on it for now. And I'm actually planning on cutting down this perf board because I really don't need that much. I just put the wires through the holes, kind of like what I did with this guy over here. I want to make it easier, and if I had all 36 wires here, that could have been really a pain in the rear end. And obviously I marked it. I accidentally still have to solder one more wire because I miscounted. I actually miscounted. That doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it does. But the plan is, once I pop in a game, like a Super Nintendo. This is actually a Game Genie. I would use this, but I realized I accidentally broke a piece of the copper off. I just kept it for, I guess, additional purposes, but the idea is the game slides in there. But I'm gonna actually build a homemade one that will work perfectly fine. And I'm starting to think I might be able to skip a few steps. I originally had a drawing board on a napkin. Matter of fact, I'll go see if I can get it quick. Okay, so I couldn't find it. Okay, so basically the thought is, this is the beginning, but the thought is I wanted to go ahead and basically this is going to be one set here. So we got 36, which is 72 times, well, 36 times 2. Oh, excuse me, I had some Coca-Cola just in case you were wondering. Okay, so just like this board right here, I have this is actually more than 36. Obviously, where this stops right here, I happen to have extra. But the whole idea is I have 36 here, 36 there, and then I was thinking maybe of having a board, because if you ever watch Ben Heckendorf's videos, he always encourages detaching things. So I figured maybe I might look into, I need to get the pen, but they were out of the cheap pen for like $10. You could get the one for $22, so I figured if I could buy a board where you could just draw the lines on it, then after soldering all these together, I could slide this guy into it, and then the last part would be another set of these right here. But in the end, what should happen is a big old NES game should be able to slide over this, and I'll have to friction fit it to this right here so that the game will fit in there, and all 36 pins that are on both sides of the disc won't touch an opposing pin that it's not supposed to touch. So the idea is make it friction fit and line it up. And let me go get the NES game that I'm going to be using. Well, those are my wonderful tools. I actually burnt out a soldering iron. That's never happened to me. Okay. So the idea is I took apart this old Nintendo game. See how much smaller the game is? So the game just fits in there just like that. And notice it wasted wasted space. And also another cool thing I'll just tell you really quick about is you got 5 screw holes here. Newer NES games, during the old Nintendo only, they had a pin there, and a pin there, and completely skipped these 2 up here, but they actually use flatheads, like little screwdriver, a precision screwdriver, which I have a couple of sets of those. But okay, back to, since I gave you that history, that's wonderful. Who cares, right? Well, the whole idea here is try to make sure, and you know what, I could probably skip the steps I'm making. This is just a prototype anyway. I had a couple other prototypes, but I completely messed those up. But anyway, the whole idea is lining up the copper pins with the solder, and if I do it right, it'll fit in there, friction fit. And I actually have this as a test unit that I created. It has just a little bit of wiggle room, and I don't like that, because just in case it might cross pins. So we'll just see what happens. Sorry about making this close to a 15-minute video. I see it's 13:04, but this should be fun. Matter of fact, I believe this is the original 5 volts regulator for when I pulled out I said it earlier, it has to deal with the video and the power supply. I forget the name for some stupid reason, but you get the idea. This is just going to be a mod, and I'll update later. We'll have fun with it. It's yeah, I can't think of it, but let's have fun.